Okay. I think I'll go ahead and just do some housekeeping to explain what's about to happen. This is a required meeting, organizational meeting to adopt the organizational resolution and all of the policies and officers and procedures for the Imagination Library of Kansas 501c3 nonprofit organization. We don't actually have a chair at the moment. We have to elect such persons. So it's the reason I've stepped in to just sort of work as master of ceremonies until we as a group determine who our officers will be. We'll just generally follow the very simple Robert's Rules of Order for these meetings. When it comes to the first order of business, which is the election of officers, we can accept nominations from the floor. It does not require a second or any formal speeches. You can self-nominate if you desire. We can entertain a slate or individual positions. And I will say the bylaws call for us to elect a chair, a vice chair, secretary, and treasurer. And the chair can only serve as the chair, but any of the other officers could have dual roles. So we might entertain a secretary / treasurer to reduce the number of like I know you are a busy group of people. It is entirely up to you all how we organize, and at subsequent meetings when we have more time to dig into the business, if there are adjustments to the bylaws that we want to make, if there are additional people we want to add to the board, there's process for that. There's if you agree to step up today and serve in these officer roles and things change, and there's procedure for letting us know you know we need to adopt a replacement, etc. So this is not a forever commitment. I hope this is a project that brings you as much joy as it has brought us here at the cabinet, and I am super excited to get started. So we need nominations to serve in the elected positions.
Melissa, I would be happy to offer a slate of nominations.
I would love that.
All right, so I nominate Deanne Owen Graham as chair, Leetta Felter as vice chair, and Monica Mernan as secretary and treasurer.
I also want to open it up if
Second
anyone
that nomination.
Oh, good. Second. Okay. We can entertain other nominees. You can self-nominate. Going once, going twice. Okay, well, we will need a vote. Do we want a roll call, or do we think a voice vote suffices?
I wonder if we can move to approve by acclamation the slate of officer recommendations.
That motion. Yep.
So we got a second in there? Yeah.
It was Leetta, yeah.
Leetta, all right. Then it feels like that's done then.
Excellent. Okay. So Deanne, welcome. Thank you to all three of you for Deanne as chair, Leetta as vice chair, Monica as secretary treasurer. I promise that between the Dollywood Foundation and cabinet staff, we will support all of you in your roles and make sure that this remains a gratifying experience for you. Deanne, I'm going to turn the meeting over. We have a very simple set of steps on our agenda. The next order of business is the organizational resolution needs to be adopted.
Okay, great.
So I'll go ahead and read it because I have it quickly accessible, and then it will be a motion and a second and then a vote on that. So the initial organizational resolution of the Board of Directors of Dolly Parton's Imagination Library of Kansas on this 7th day of June, 2024, the undersigned being and constituting all of the members of the Board of Directors of Dolly Parton's Imagination Library of Kansas Incorporated, known as the corporation, do hereby take the following actions. Whereas the articles of incorporation appointed the following persons to serve as directors of the corporation until their respective successors are elected or until their prior resignation or removal. Don Heineman, Leetta Felter, Tyler K. Smith, MD, Terry Rice, Deanne Owen Graham, Renee Erickson, Delise Hofen, Monica Mernan, John Wilson, Melissa Rooker. Whereas such persons have accepted their respective appointments, it is hereby resolved that each director affirms and resolves to participate actively and regularly in the control, oversight, and/or operations of the corporation as applicable within his or her duties in accordance with the articles of incorporation and bylaws of the corporation. Whereas the first bylaws of the corporation have been presented to the Board of Directors of the corporation, it is hereby resolved that the bylaws are adopted in their entirety and ordered to be a permanent part of the records of the corporation following the articles of incorporation in the corporation's minute book. Whereas the election of a chair, a vice chair, secretary, and treasurer are to be undertaken as specified in the bylaws, it is hereby resolved that the following officers are elected to the offices set forth opposite their names until their respective successors are elected or until their prior resignation or removal. Deanne Graham, chair, Leetta Felter, vice chair, Monica Mernan, secretary, treasurer. Whereas, as a tax-exempt nonprofit organization established pursuant to Section 501c3 of the Internal Revenue Code of 1986, or the corresponding provision of any future United States Internal Revenue Law, known as the Code, the corporation must operate consistent with the laws, regulations, and principles applicable to a tax-exempt organization. It is hereby resolved that the Board of Directors approves and adopts the following policies which are attached to this resolution and shall be included in the records of the corporation: conflict of interest policy, non-discrimination policy, key officer and employee compensation policy, whistleblower protection policy, and document retention and destruction policy. Further resolved that the treasurer of the corporation is authorized to pay or reimburse all fees and expenses incident to and necessary for the organization of the corporation. And it is further resolved that the officers of the corporation hereby are authorized and directed to open such bank accounts in the name of the corporation in such bank or banks as they shall determine necessary for the deposit of funds belonging to the corporation, such funds to be withdrawn by check of the corporation, and other orders for the payment of money drawn in the name of the corporation when signed by the chair, vice chair, and/or treasurer of the corporation. And it is further resolved the officers of the corporation hereby are authorized to obtain such insurance policies naming the corporation as the insured in such amounts and on such terms as they shall deem to be in the best interests of the corporation and to the extent such insurance is available. It is further resolved that notice of this organization meeting was duly provided to each director, and any objection to notice of this meeting as required in the bylaws is hereby waived. And it is further resolved that the articles of incorporation and all other activities and actions taken and documents executed heretofore by any incorporator, trustee, director, or officer of the corporation in connection with the organization and operation of the corporation are hereby ratified, confirmed, and approved in all respects. In witness whereof, the undersigned have executed their consent as of the date set forth above. And then there is room for signatures. We will put together a DocuSign deal where it will travel as each one of you adds an electronic signature so that we all gather on one document, the signatures adopting this resolution. So, Madam Chair, over to you.
Thank you, Melissa, for taking us through that. At this time, I will entertain a motion for us to adopt the policy that has been presented.
This is Lietta, so moved.
Monica, second.
Is there any further discussion? I actually have one question, Melissa. If, as we have cabinet member changes that are listed, will those changes be just made as cabinet members? Like, will
Yeah,
we-
I think the most expedient thing to do, because the statute that allows the formation of this entity requires all 9 voting members and the executive director of the cabinet to be the initial members of the nonprofit and hold that position. I think because there's no, like, that's just the law. That's how this has to operate. We are allowed in our bylaws to do like I can email and you all can respond to acknowledge. So there's process and procedures that we'll have to keep that flowing easily and quickly. The original articles were filed in January with the IRS. So we do include Delise. We will need to make that change happen at effective June 20th. So we'll get that housekeeping taken care of.
Right.
I have a question too.
Mhm.
I guess my understanding would be these articles of incorporation, though, are kind of like etched in stone. This is the initial founding board. So Delise wouldn't have to be removed from the articles of incorporation. It
No.
would be any
Correct.
subsequent roster of the board for 990 purposes or whatever.
Correct.
Okay.
Yep.
Great. So this is kind of historic.
Yeah, this is pretty cool. And technically Delise will be with us until June 20th, if we want to be specific. So this is correct and appropriate to adopt this. And then we will have, the bylaws ask us to direct us to hold 4 meetings. We have to have quarterly meetings, and one of them needs to be an annual meeting. So we will have to discuss the meeting preference. I'm not sure it works terribly well for us to try and piggyback on a cabinet board meeting, but I want to respect everybody's time. So we'll get to those types of decisions once we are official.
Do we have any other questions or discussion? Hearing none, then with our motion, our second, are we doing a voice vote here, Melissa? Or?
I'm not sure we have a prepared slide, actually, come to think of it.
I'm comfortable with that.
I can work on creating one. It'll just take me a moment, but it's up to y'all.
I don't think it's necessary. So should we just, if everyone's good with that, I think we can just do a voice vote. So all in favor, say aye.
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 And we have we have adopted our policy.
Fantastic.
Correct language here. Great.
Thank you.
And Melissa, it looks like we have some additional information that you'll present to us.
I would love to recommend that we approve the inclusion, the addition of Nora Briggs, the director of the Dollywood Foundation, in an advisory role to this board. She is phenomenal. I think those of you that were able to join us at the in-person event, Nora was with us. She's a huge champion of the program and can serve as a great resource. So I'm hoping that we'll agree to add a non-voting position for Nora on our board with approval of this board.
I would move to approve. We need all the help we can get.
I'll second that. So we need an official vote for that, Melissa?
I think it can be a voice vote, but yes,
Okay.
let's.
All right, well, then let's entertain a voice vote, and all those in favor, aye?
Aye.
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 Awesome, thank you. She's gonna be excited.
What do we have up next, Melissa?
Last order of business, Madam Chair, we will need a fiscal, it's a service agreement between the nonprofit and the Dollywood Foundation. They will serve as the parent of the, like, think of a donor advised fund at a larger foundation. We will be the fund that they will manage for us. They will provide the services necessary to submit our 990 and any audits and the management of the funds themselves. When a donor donates, the tax form, the receipt for that donation will be issued by the Dollywood Foundation on our behalf. So I didn't have a complete document to submit to the board for approval. I'm seeking permission to continue to work out the details. I think the state lead sponsor agreement is absorbing the cost of doing business. I think until we have money to work with, this entity doesn't have the power to engage services from an accountant or that sort of thing. So I'm seeking approval to engage in the work to put an agreement in place so that we are covered.
So should we entertain a motion for that approval for you, Melissa? Is that the proper way to proceed?
I'd appreciate it.
Okay. This is Dean. I'd be happy to make that motion.
Thank you.
Allow you permission to proceed with that work.
Okay.
Any second?
I'll second, Monica.
Any questions or discussion?
I would just add that this will support those of you who stepped into officer roles. This is why to say yes to being treasurer. You are not keeping the books. We will provide the information to the board, but this will make life manageable for those of us volunteering our time. So.
Any other questions or discussion? Not seeing any, I think we'll entertain a voice vote here. All those in favor say aye.
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 Thank you.
Awesome. Thank you all.
Melissa, any
That's
other
it.
updates? That's all?
No, we were going to talk overall vision. We could probably spend a couple minutes. The goal of this organization is to support the work the cabinet does as the state lead. The cabinet, I hope, retains the identity as the state lead for the program. The nonprofit sets us up to raise money from the private sector to support the program. First order of business is to put enough funding in place to help when we have, we need a fund that can help sustain. We have a network of local partners. At any given time, one of those partners may run short on cash, and rather than kids being dropped abruptly from the program, we try and make sure to maintain the cost of enrollment for them. And there's work that has to be done to fundraise from the private sector, create a mini form of endowment to support the program. I don't see a path to enlarging the line item in the CIF budget beyond where it stands. We're going to run into, when we hit those high enrollment goals, then we begin to grow out of the line item that we have to work with. So this is all about putting a long-term plan in place to support the program in the state. So we will be looking to promote the program and figure out ways that we can approach donors. I'll let this group know that I have a series of conversations happening that have been in the works since last year with different local potential partners. We started relationship building with the event last summer, and we're just working to continue to help people see the value of the program. So as board members, if you have leads, if you want to help with any of those discussions, I am hopeful that we will approach this as a team because it's just such a fun program to operate. It's a privilege.
I think one thing that would be really interesting to find out about is, is there sharing of information from Imagination Libraries in other states and just sharing best practices. So
yep.
Maybe once Nora is officially on board, that could be an agenda item that we could discuss and just bring some new ideas to the table as well.
She is a wealth of ideas, and yes, there's lots of states preceding us, and so yes, we'll make that an item for the the next time we meet. As I said, quarterly meetings. So I'll watch for an email. We'll try and do some surveying of what might be preferred by members, and we'll go from there. So
I just had like two more small things, and I would love for us to be able to wrap by 11:30 and not hold up unnecessarily. So just practically speaking, we are now an established nonprofit. There is no tether to the legislature anymore. The law passed that gave us the authority to create what we just created, and now we are an independent nonprofit,
yes,
self-governing, with no staff currently, just a
Right.
volunteer, uncompensated board, with a soon-to-be fiscal services agreement with Dollywood Foundation to handle 990s, audits, accepting of gifts,
yes,
that sort of thing. And
Yes.
practically speaking, the way that people give to the Dolly Parton Imagination Library of Kansas Incorporated is through the Dollywood Foundation right now.
yes. And we will be posting, we'll make that a prominent feature of information we share online for how do I donate? And it's certainly the most important thing is that it needs to be the Imagination Library of Kansas, and then it will be credited to us. So it can come here to the cabinet and we can forward donations. So we'll bend over backwards to make sure the money that people wish to give is accounted for appropriately.
Wonderful.
Any other questions or comments? I'd just like to say thank you so much for electing me in this role. I look forward to working with all of you. Lietta, thank you, and Monica both as well for stepping up to take this on. It's going to be really exciting to see what all the wonderful outcomes will be as a result of this work. So if there's no other discussion or any other questions, then I'll entertain a motion for us to adjourn the meeting.
So moved.
Thank you, Melissa.
Second, Tyler Smith.
Thank you, Dr. Smith. Well, this was wonderful. Thanks, everybody. We got you up before 11:30, John.
All right, awesome.
Good day for Kansas. Thanks,
Good day for
everybody.
Thank
Kansas.
you.
Take care.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. Bye, everyone.